Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go and call to order our January 18th meeting of the Ridgecrest City Council. We'll go ahead and first with roll call.
Mayor Bruin.
Here.
Mr. Blades.
Present.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Present.
Mr. Heyman.
Present.
Mr. Gorman. Present. 5 present. We have a quorum.
Fantastic. So our first item is our approval of our agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval? I start a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and second.
Well,
Are we digitally or are we roll calling?
no, we're roll calling each thing.
Okay,
no,
roll call.
so. Mayor Bruin.
Aye.
Mr. Blades.
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Mr. Gorman. Aye. 5 ayes. Motion carries.
So next is we have public comment on our closed session. We have 3 closed session items which we'll be going into. Conference of Legal Counsel regarding existing litigation, Finley versus City of Ridgecrest, as well as existing litigation, Holland versus City of Ridgecrest, and then legal counsel for pending litigation on other matters. Is there any public comment on closed session items? I'll allow 30 seconds to allow for any phone calls that may be called in. Seeing none and hearing no public comment on our closed session, we'll go and adjourn into closed session. We'll be reopening at 6 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to return from our closed session at 6:01 p.m. And if I can go and ask us to go ahead and begin our regular session by asking everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Chief, would you lead us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Rajaratnam.
Please join me in prayer if you would. Lord, thank you for this day. Lord, we come to you with gratitude as we begin our first City Council meeting of the year 2023. Lord, thank you for Ridgecrest, the place we live, the place we love, the place we cherish, the place we call home. Lord, thank you for the calling you have given to all the City Council members to be good stewards of this city and her resources. Lord, I thank you for the mayor, the city manager, city staff, and the City Council who work for the development of this community to make this a better place to live. Lord, we have big tasks ahead of us during this year and the coming years. And with those tasks, Lord, comes the challenges. Lord, we ask you for the wisdom, the strength, and the courage to do the best for this community. Lord, may we all put the interest of this community above our interest, Lord. Pray for our country. Give your direction to this country. Be with the leaders of the country at the national level, state level, and county level, so that they make this country a beacon of hope for many other nations in this world, Lord. Bless each one of us here and be with us as we begin this meeting. And I ask all this in the precious name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
Okay, first item is our attorney report out of closed session. Mr. Levin?
Sure. The City Council met in closed session to discuss the litigation identified on the agenda, Finley versus City of Ridgecrest, Holland versus City of Ridgecrest, and some unidentified pending litigation. No reportable action took place on those matters. In addition, the City Council considered a tort claim filed by, Katie Bassey, and after receiving a report from the city attorney, the City Council unanimously voted to reject that claim and directed the city clerk to send a statutory notice of rejection. Mr. Mayor, that concludes the report.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have a presentation of a key to the city by the Ridgecrest Police Department. Would you like the council to join you at the podium? Yes, please. Okay.
I lied, Fred. Come on up. And Janelle. So this award is to recognize people in the community that go above and beyond. And Fred and Janelle have gone way above and beyond. A lot of people don't know because they do everything behind the door, behind closed doors, usually when I call them. Whatever I need to do or whatever we want to do, project-wise or event-wise, they're always there. During the earthquakes, they were instrumental in getting the community to heal. Youth sports, that's their big reason that many of the youth sports even continue today is because of them. So this is just a token of appreciation. I hope the whole community recognizes you guys and the work that you do. I appreciate it, and I'll let these fine folks say some words if they'd like to. On the spot.
Looks like it's me. Well, obviously, we started the Key to the City program back in 2021 with one key thing in mind, which is that we spend too often, we thank people, but we never publicly thank them. We never put them on the spotlight, and congratulations, you're on the spotlight for a reason. Fred and Janelle, the Etosh family and everything you guys have done for all the years for this community, we know how much it's appreciated. And as always, as a city, it's our job to make sure that we tell you thank you from, not just from this council, but more importantly from its citizens. It takes an army, what's the old term? It takes a village to raise a child. That's right. It takes a village to create a community, and a community is built upon the people and their efforts. So it is our honor through the PD department, as well as the rest of the council, to thank you for all of your years of service and to recognize you with the Key to the City. And I'd welcome you to share a few words if you'd like as well.
Well, 15 minutes.
Sure. Yeah, nothing on the spot.
Nothing on the spot.
You know, we started this foundation because of a tough loss of ours, and it's hard for me to talk about, but even to this day. But, you know, we thought that the best thing we could do is to help the youth in the community and do what we could and keep Evan's name out there. And so it was just a big push, and everybody helped us. And we've got, I don't know what we've done or what we've given, but we enjoy seeing it every time his name's up there. It's as much for us as it is for the youth and the community as a whole. So we're more than glad to do it. We enjoy it. I can't even talk when I'm talking about him or this situation, but we will continue to do it as long as we can. So thank you guys for everything, and what an honor. Thank you.
Fred, if there's one thing I can tell you without question, with certainty, that's Evan's here, and he appreciates, and he knows.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Oh, pictures too. God, you really put me together tonight, didn't you?
How old would Evan have been?
27. He was 14, so actually 13 years. Yeah, we enjoy it.
Yes.
Use one on this side. Balance me out. No, we need to balance.
Nobody from our committee. I'm trying.
Get in here.
He's gonna sit on the side as far as. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you.
Hey, and I know how hard it was. Yeah, I didn't, well, Jed planned it pretty well. I didn't know I was.
Didn't know what it was.
There, so him and Ron set it up pretty good. But,
We just want to see.
absolutely. Hey, that's a good thing, you know? It's a good thing for
Builds
everybody.
community. Thank you. And you'll need a bigger boat.
Ron, darn it, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Oh, wait a minute. We gotta get this covered. That's beautiful. I figured you guys would be fighting the whole trash thing tonight.
We haven't hit public comment yet, Fred, if you want to stick around. We're only at 6:10. We're hopeful to get to city business by 7, so. Once again, our deep appreciation to the Etosh family for everything they've contributed to this community, and in honor of your son, Evan, thank you very much. Okay, next item on our agenda this evening is our public comment of items not on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Council will not respond to any public comments, but may provide direction to staff to collect information. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the city council may not act on any item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes, and the public comment section of the agenda is limited to 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide her name, and we'll begin with comments from the floor. Do I have any public comment from the floor? Just looking to see. I don't see any public comment from the floor. We'll go ahead and begin with public comment on the phones. Is there any public comment on the phones?
Don't see any public comment from the.
Caller, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Mike Neal, and I'm calling tonight. First off, I'd just like to reiterate that the realities of public service in California, especially since you have one new council member, Mr. Gorman, sitting tonight. If you read the first section of the California Constitution and also the preamble to the Brown Act, you will find, if you read it and think about it, that the city councils and so forth, government bodies in the state, are basically defined as there to serve the will of the people, that the people hold the sovereignty, the people hold the power in the government, and they cede it to the representatives to do according to their wishes. So I hope you'll read this. Several others of you could certainly stand to read this and think about it yourselves, and as you proceed along. Now, on the second subject, as you, I'm sure, well know, there's a lot of people now are facing the realities of the new trash system that has been basically put in place by the city council. A lot of people wondering when to put their cans out, so forth and so on, but mainly wondering why they get less service for more money. If you think about what we used to have, we used to get a potential total gallonage of trash pickup of 540 gallons per month. Now we get 420 gallons per month, plus the few, and I mean very few, gallons of what will be organic trash from most households, estimated by the county code to be somewhere between 3 to 5 gallons per week. That's it. We're paying 30% plus more for a lot less pickup, and we have to sort more, and we have to mess with worrying about the organic stuff, putting it in the can, doing it just right so that they don't rat on us to the city, since it's well known by some who look into it. There's cameras on the truck so that they can tell who the bad guys are about putting their trash out. So here we are, Trashgate 2.0. City Council, as I recall, never heard one single word about any kind of complaint or resistance at all put up to the state on behalf of the people that they knew wouldn't like all of this. They just, according to Mr. Blades, asked the lawyer, could they fight it? And the lawyer said no, and of course, they always do what the lawyer says. So there was no pushback whatsoever, unless we've been completely uninformed about it. So here we get to start off the new year with a reminder in our face of all our neighbors' trash cans lined up and down the street because they don't know when to put them out, that we get screwed by the California government but instrumentally through the city council. I know a lot of people won't be happy about this, but unfortunately, looks like you're not hearing from any of them tonight about it, and probably very few, except the very few on Facebook. So they don't speak up; they get what they get, and it's not good, but that's what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other callers on the phone? I'll allow a few seconds just to make sure there's no other callers. Okay, seeing no other public comment, we'll go ahead and move on to our council announcements or direction. We'll go ahead and start left to right with Mr. Blades. Any council announcements?
None.
Solomon? Scott? Skip? I don't have any others other than welcome to Happy New Year and welcome to 2023. Your council is excited to be here and to be of service to the city of Ridgecrest. Next item is our consent calendar. All items listed on the consent are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff. Consent items may be approved by one motion if no member of the council or audience wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the city council concerning the item before action is taken. I'll now read the three consent items. Item number one is proposed action to approve the draft minutes of the Ridgecrest City Council regular meeting dated December 21, 2022. Two is authorization for the city manager, Ron Strand, to sign the notice of completion for the floor replacement at the Kerr-McGee Community Center Banquet Hall, for the city clerk to file the notice of completion, and for city staff to release the retention in the amount of $5,069.40 to the contractor, Bentley Mills, within 30 days after recordation of the notice of completion. And item number four is approve a resolution of the City of Ridgecrest City Council scheduling the date of the annual unmet transit needs public hearing and authorizing the city clerk to advertise the hearing. Do any members of the council wish to have an item pulled? Hearing none, is there any member of the public which wishes to have an item pulled? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion for approval of the consent calendar as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor Brun,
Aye.
Mr. Blades,
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam,
Aye.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Mr. Gorman.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
All right, next is our discussion and action items for this meeting. The first is item number 5. This is discussion regarding needed appointments to council committees, boards, and commissions. Ms. Charlon. And if we're not ready, how do we grovel?
I guess you just did.
Got it, thank you. Got out of the way.
So we can go one at a time, and you can let me know if you have anybody or if you have confirmed. I did let you all know that for Measure V, everybody had reconfirmed except for Mr. Heyman's. So you don't have to speak with them, but the rest of them, if we could maybe go down the line and see what you know and.
I know that, I don't think there's been no changes to any of my appointments thus far.
So you're all, okay?
I confirm Planning Commission, Personal, Handicap. I need to talk to Construction Appeals Board,
Yeah.
Mike Ferguson, so.
Now that you bring that up,
Ryan did move out, didn't he?
Ryan did. So those two, I think he was on two of them.
Yeah, he was on the Construction Appeals Board and the Handicap Access Appeal. Yeah. Yeah. So you'll need to find 2, and then Solomon needs to find 1.
Correct.
And then down the line, Mayor?
All of mine have confirmed with the exception of construction, which I've suggested to somebody, but I haven't confirmed it, and personnel. Those are the only 2 which I would have changes.
Construction, okay.
All my others have confirmed.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Heyman?
The Measure V, and I believe my handicap member is going to be moving out of state, so I'll be pursuing another replacement for them.
Okay, so your Planning Commission and your Personnel Commission have confirmed?
States, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Gorman?
All of Peggy's nominations, which I've adopted, I suppose, have confirmed to re-enlist, or whatever word you guys use. Before we leave this issue, I do have a question.
Of course.
Since I'm at the end of the line, shall I ask it?
Go right ahead.
Okay, there's one of the people are on the Measure V is, there will ultimately, to my way of dreaming, be a Measure P committee.
Yes.
Everyone sort of nods. Will the Measure V committee naturally morph into a Measure P committee? Is that how these things happen or not?
No, we will have a completely separate committee.
So we should have in our hip pocket, before the Measure P committee coalesces, a name for the Measure P committee.
Yeah, I think we were looking at the end of March-ish assigning them, is that correct?
Yeah, that's what we're going to propose to council.
Because there won't be any revenue or expenditures until after we get through the end of this fiscal year. So that committee probably won't have action until probably August or so.
Okay, when it's hot. That's the way
No,
my mind works.
I'm asking Ron. I think that's about right. If I'm,
Yeah, like the Measure V committee, they begin to meet, sometime after the CAFR is produced. I would probably suspect that we would like to get the committee on board by April or May, so then we can start convening and educating them and kind of go through that process. And so once that information from finance gets done, then they can do a report probably sometime, next July.
right.
My friend, thank you.
We all are going to need to have an appointment in our pocket. for
Yes,
P.
you are. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll give you a little bit of a heads up when it starts to get a little bit closer so that you can reach out to whoever you want to appoint. Going back one more, Mr. Heyman, you also need to appoint your Measure V. Have you talked to anybody on that?
Not successfully.
Okay. Okay, that's all that I had then, and so do we think we could be prepared in one more meeting, or should I give you a month and give you 2 meetings?
I think we all need to be prepared at our next meeting. Is that a fair? I think we all suffer from post-holiday hangover, and that happens when you have a meeting on the 21st of December followed by
A cancellation.
a
and then,
cancellation,
yes.
and I think we're probably all still a little on holiday hangover. But I would say for the meeting on, I believe that's the first?
First, yes.
Is that, so is the council agreed to come forward with your necessaries by
I mean,
the first?
we can call it the first. I mean, that doesn't bother me. I think I just need to say out loud that as much as we're being jovial up here, it's a solemn occasion that we ask people to do these things, and we often get turned down.
Yeah.
So it's so we could hit February 1st and not have a name because we've asked 5
Absolutely.
or 6 people.
We could have it on the agenda for the next two or three meetings, realistically. We can also, if anybody's interested in serving on a committee, they can email me, and I can get them hooked up with any of you. So if anybody's interested in that way, certainly reach out to me, and we can introduce you.
Yeah, and I would certainly say that if there's members of the public that hear and they're interested and they're participating and hear what's going on with, want to know what the personnel committee is or what the construction committee is or what the Measure V committee does. I know that there's 5 individuals up here, which our phone numbers are listed, our emails are listed, and we're always more than willing to take a phone call or answer a question, and we'd love to hear from members of the community that want to be involved. I do agree with that sentiment.
And I'll run an ad also in the Daily Independent and see if we can get anybody that way as well.
Yeah, we can also, if council desires, we can have our social media folks, put the information out that way, but I'll leave that up to when council feels that you've exhausted whatever leads you currently have, if you want us to open that up to the public. So,
Maybe after our next meeting, let's see where you guys sit, and we'll revisit that
Yeah.
social media part of it.
Looks
Yeah.
like you have a call, Mr.
I have a call, yeah, I saw it.
I said no of you.
Oh, is there any other discussion or questions from the council?
You're welcome.
Is there any comments from the floor from the public? Seeing none, I believe I do have a caller on the phone. Caller, go
Yes.
ahead.
Yes, this is Mike Neal. talking about these this committee, appointing people to this committee, what I would suggest is that the council members look for the youngest and least experienced people they can possibly find to put on this committee for the following reason. This is going to be the easiest committee anybody ever sat on up there in the city. This is a committee to oversee the spending of general fund money, which is literally everything that the city does except for the special enterprise funds, which is, I believe we have one, which is the wastewater treatment fund. So if the city is not going to spend money on the wastewater treatment fund with Measure P money, then they're doing fine. Now, I know all these promises have been made, but if they start getting real highly limited on what they're going to spend on and they're going to target spending, then they're quickly morphing over into the area of being a special tax, which would be misappropriation of funds and deception to the public for the whole affair. So go find yourself some kids just out of high school, let them get some experience seeing what city government looks like and how sitting on committees looks like, because it won't be real hard for them.
Thank you, sir.
Well, since this is a discussion item, I don't mind saying that that's not the worst idea I've ever heard
No.
Mike Neal say over the
No.
phone. And I don't mean that to be like a smart aleck. I'm just saying that we're always looking for ways to get younger. I mean, so I'd love if people
If there's
reached
some
out.
young,
Yeah.
if there's some young people out there that are very interested in getting involved in their community, we would love to have them.
Yeah, I would love it.
I think we'd all love to have their participation. It certainly helps to balance the senior opinions that we get so often.
Yeah,
would
because I've
certainly
said it.
help.
Well, I've said it a few times. I've reached out to a lot of people, and not everybody wants to take the time, and maybe it is because they're busy and they have other things going on.
Absolutely.
I understand that. I'd love for younger folks to get involved in local government. I think it'd be great for the population, great for the future generations.
And just getting the differences of thoughts and opinions and hearing from new voices certainly always helps too.
Absolutely.
Is there an age minimum?
18.
Rika?
I
Or-
am going to leave that one to maybe the city manager or the attorney.
Keith, what do you think?
I'm not aware of an existing age limit.
Yeah.
What, you're talking about being on a committee?
Yeah. on a-
Don't we have a youth committee that has young
It's
folks?
an ad hoc. This
Yeah.
would be an appointed committee
Doesn't
of,
meet.
I think they have to be able to read.
okay? And
That's fair.
Well, I mean, they have to fill out a citizen service,
yeah,
application.
fill out an
right?
application and again,
That's what I was.
I think like if this were high school students who are involved in government, you know how brilliant that would be. That's a good idea.
I would have done it
where-
back when I would have done it when I was,
I would not have, but I think that
I would have, but that's me.
So that's where I was going with it, Kyle.
I didn't have a lot of fun during high school, so.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
Well, no, that's exactly where I was going with it. If there's, students, like high school students that are interested in civic or government,
Yeah.
futures or just being participative of it, that might be a really,
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And for that same group, we always welcome and would love to have you here at our council meetings, participating, getting involved, any one of our committee meetings. The city is open for your citizens to be involved with, so we certainly appreciate the idea.
All the hard work of the city, all that first line, it all hits the committees first. And the committees is where a lot of the work gets done, and then it gets pitched up to the council or out to the staff. The staff ends up learning about a lot of things that are happening in the community through the committees, and so I think it's a great starter.
Yep. Okay, is there any other public comment?
Good idea.
Seeing none, we'll go ahead and bring it back to council. I don't believe there's any other discussion. We hope to bring back appointments at the February meeting,
March 1st.
February 1st.
February 1st, excuse me. You are
Okay,
correct.
February 1st.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to item number 6. Item number 6 is our proposed Measure P 10-year projection. Sheree?
Good evening, Council. So this is our basically roadmap, what we're looking at for the Measure P funding. These are our estimated expectations based on our current plans. The plans are subject to change. And there is a spreadsheet that goes along with this. I gave you all each a copy, and there are additional copies here if anybody wants one. So as you know, the city has been successful in budgeting conservatively over the last few years, as seen by our growing reserves. We will be doing the same with Measure P, as you can see here. We have budgeted the revenue at $5.9 million for each year, even though we know that some of the years may be higher and some may be lower. Additionally, the payments begin on April 1st of this year, so we will receive 1 quarter of payments for fiscal year '23, and then we'll receive 3 quarters in fiscal year '32. Over 1,000 residents responded to our Ridgecrest community conversation. Through that engagement effort, we were able to get a better understanding of the priorities of our residents. Those priorities are listed here: the fire protection services, restoring 4 officer positions, rebuilding and maintaining the pool, recruitment and retention, and public outreach and events. We are very excited to be able to incorporate these priorities into our Measure P roadmap. And now we're going to look at each of the proposed expenses individually. The first one is the fire contract cost. We're estimating this to have a 10-year total of $12.2 million. The current fire service contract is through fiscal year '28. Since we don't know the amounts that would be charged after that, we went ahead and estimated with an annual 5% increase. Also, the $415,000 payment that's for fiscal year '23, that was originally budgeted to be paid for by the general fund. By moving the payment to Measure V, it allows for the general fund to then fund a portion of the recruitment and retention efforts. The next item is the restoration of 4 police officer positions. We're estimating that cost to be $4.7 million. These 4 positions would be in tandem with the Measure V funding that funds and maintains 18 positions in the police department. The residents have voiced how important the community pool is to them. They have told us that they want the pool reinstated, and we are excited to be beginning the process of delivering that. The first step is the design and engineering costs, which we're estimating at $500,000. Next is the pool bond for $14 million for 10 years. So that first line is the bond amounts per the quote that we received in December with an interest rate of 4%. The next line is the impound amount, which is the additional amount that would be needed to either keep in reserves or make principal payments with in order to pay off the loan before the sunset date. Next is the pool operations and maintenance.
Jessica, do you need us to go back?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Can you do it like right now, though? I gotta do
Or I can give her one of these, maybe? Or no.
It's on,
That's the spreadsheet, though.
Yeah, I can send it to you.
Okay, can you do it like tonight?
I can do that. So next is the pool operations and maintenance. We're hoping to have the pool complete by fiscal year '25, which is when the operations and maintenance would begin. The next is the recruitment and retention of city service providers. As you all know, I'm sure every community is experiencing labor shortages. So in order to combat that, we would like to bring back 5 positions that we've had in some form or capacity over the last few years, but we've had to eliminate them from the budget due to budgetary restraints. Those positions are a police dispatcher, a records clerk, an HR assistant, a kennel attendant, and a community event coordinator. Additionally, with the recruitment and retention, we would like to do some salary schedule adjustments and increase our insurance contribution costs. This has two amounts. It has the Measure P amounts, and then also the $415,000 that we originally talked about with the fire service contract that was budgeted in the general fund. And then during our quality of life public engagement survey, a number of citizens were concerned with the lack of community events. So we are proposing some funds to be utilized to fund current city events or help create new ones. So the 10-year summary, we're estimating revenue at $53.1 million, expenses at $46.6 million, and then we would have a leftover amount of about $6.5 million. That can be then used for any of the projects listed here, such as streetlights or roof repair, skate park expansion, splash pad improvements, baseball field, ADA improvements, turf fields, additional road improvements, Balsam Street parking shade covers, or computer firewall upgrade. And that's all I have. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I say we open it up for questions from council, and then we can answer whatever you have.
Well, I'm going to take the first shot here. And first, thank you for the presentation. I want to highlight something we talked about in finance, which is how refreshing it is to be shown plans and projections and to be thinking through where we're going and how we want to get there. We had Measure L, which was a crisis measure. And we had Measure V, which came shortly on the heels of that, but still our city budget not being in a position where our general fund had been restored and our abilities to be able to move the city forward were properly structured. We've worked on Measure P now for well over a year. And more importantly is we were able to deliver within 90 days of its passage a plan and a comprehensive plan that takes into account two important fiscal aspects. The first is that it is budgeted on an income basis conservatively and on an expense basis aggressively. Now, when you talk about planning, that's very important because you want to plan your income on a conservative basis so that if you exceed those expectations, you have more to do. And you want to plan your expenses on an aggressive basis so that you ensure that you don't run short of the needs that you've committed to deliver to your community. So I want to commend you and thank you. This is exactly what good functioning organizations do, is they work towards a goal and then they present a plan for how they're going to implement that goal. It's the first meeting of 2023. It's less than 90 days since that passed, and your plan is in front of you. Thank you very much. I'll pass it on. Skip, you get to be the first this round.
Ditto, everything you just said. I'm enthusiastic about this. I imagine when a Measure P watchdog committee is formed, this will be the backbone of their roadmap. I'm looking forward to it I'm looking forward to following its progress, and I thank you.
Just want to say, job well done. At our last meeting, you had presented gave us a presentation on how over the finances of our past, roughly, 10 years. But anyway, it showed where we had come from when you took over from a really negative position and had brought us up to say in the top 20% of other cities. And with that, I think you had squeezed the turnip as far as you could, you know what I mean, and got us to a point where the work you'd done between yourself and the city manager and the staff was phenomenal. But I saw that as a maximum effort, and Measure P is going to take and allow the city to, and for you to continue that path that we're on to maintain a, conservative, fiscally conservative budget, and I think that's important that we don't overspend it. But in this presentation, you know, you're not, and I think you're continuing that path that you've taken us down. The other thing, and everybody knows that has listened to me in the past, that for me, employee compensation is a huge thing. And before Measure P was passed, we were able to bring employees, COLA raises and increase health benefits, and something that hadn't been done in 10, 11, 12 years, depending on what date you took. But and for me, this is really important that you get to move forward on that, and we get to hire a few more employees. We get to improve upon that employee salary and payroll, and to bring our employees into a position that ultimately helps with the recruitment portion of this that you've laid out. So anyway, fantastic. I'm glad that we're sitting here discussing it. So good job.
I'm really excited about these projections. I know you worked very hard on this. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm glad to see my 3 priorities on the list. One is the pool, second is the fire contract, and public safety. Can you talk a little bit about the pool when we try to break ground, or how many years it is going to take for the benefit of the public?
Yeah, I can take that one. We were looking at hiring a consultant after the February meeting. It's kind of a follow-on from a feasibility study that the city had done back in 2010. So we're looking at that same group just to move forward, but it's been like a 12-year break. So we're looking at getting moving forward on the design and then the beginning of what the concept of that's going to be. We're planning 2 public meetings, one in February, one in March, hoping that we can then set the path on the actual developing the plans and the architecture of the new facility, hoping that we can be breaking ground by January of '24. It's very aggressive. And they're telling us it's going to take about a year for construction. So we have not been sitting idle since Measure P passed. The minute Measure P passed, the mayor and I were on the phone with.
I know you are not
with these
sitting idle,
consultants.
but-
So we are planning to design a $12 million pool, but we're budgeting to bond $14 million, because as we know, going along with all these ARPA projects, that our costs are coming in much higher than what we'd anticipate. So one of the things with this projection budget is setting aside and planning on spending, bonding $14 million and paying it off before Measure P ends. And so at the end of that 9-year tax, we have the pool paid off. And so that's the plan. And like I said, we know we have to get the community engaged. We just have to go through this process of presenting our Measure P spending plan to council, and then eventually the council, hopefully on February 15th, will then be making the budget adjustments and the authorities for us to move forward on this. So we have a few things we kind of have to get through to be able to really start getting into the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of getting that pool moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So Eric, I don't know if you, when you were making your opening comments, did you said anything about where we were sitting with our reserves historically? Did you say anything about that?
Well,
I didn't hear you.
Well, I just mentioned we completed our we did the fiscal health presentation at the last meeting, and what that showed is that our reserves are up to, I don't remember the percentage number off the top of my head without me pulling up the notes.
About 50%.
About 50%, right? That was the number that was going to come out of my tongue, but that we've rebuilt our general fund reserve to a 50% reserve budget. We've also been able to, through that process, restore not only our general fund, but many of our other statistical elements that they score the city based on in terms of the city's health. The one thing we haven't been able to do is we've restored the general fund, but we don't have the ability to take on the things that we knew we would want to take on, and that's where Measure P comes into play.
Right. Just as a reminder, Mr. Mayor, that Measure P is also important to pay for the fire contract, because without Measure P, we'd have to recommend the closure of one station. So while Measure P allows us to build a pool, it also allows us to be able to pay for our fire service, as well as pay our employees a wage that's competitive, but also bring back 4 positions, police officer positions that we had eliminated just to be able to provide a little bit of a bump in pay so we could hopefully stop the bleeding of the patrol officers out of the department.
Yeah, 4 officer positions plus 5 other necessary city positions on top of that. I mean, there's a total of 9 city staff positions in here as well that are, basic critical resources. I can't tell you the number of times, there's 5 important roles here. I mean, dispatcher's just as important as records clerk, just as important as HR, but I don't think I've heard more times the desperation and request for a kennel assistant than I've heard from Mary Stage over the last decade. It's probably not that long, but it feels like that long because that's Mary. But I mean, just you say kennel assistant alone, and we know how important that one has been to supporting our community's needs. These are not just replacing positions. This is protecting, exactly as Councilman said. This covers and makes sure that both fire stations stay open, that our police is restored to its full strength and authority, and that we've restored the city positions that are necessary, as well as rebalanced that staffing salary schedule that was way out of whack, as Councilman Heyman.
Right, and a little bit of history. Back in 2008, when I took over as chief, I had authorization to hire 38 officers. And shortly after I took over as chief, we had the Great Recession, and we went down to 31. Major V brought it back to 1. We used to have 6 dispatchers, and throughout that process, we had to lay one off or freeze one position. So this just gets us back to where we need to be with Measure V in the way of paying our employees a salary that now they're competitive enough that we can hopefully, stabilize the department and move forward and continue to protect the safety of our citizens.
So there's a reason why I asked the question. I think that so Cherie, this is great work, and I went to the finance committee meeting and I sat as a fly on the wall to watch. So I've seen this presentation already, but it's just important that this council keeps painting the picture, the accurate picture that the staff has kept everybody within. And I can at least speak for the last 3 years. I can speak for, I know Ron was on a couple of years before I got here, right? So about 5 or 6 years you've been here. That the city itself has been, the belt's been tight. And so while you do sense that there's some excitement on your council to see some numbers, some things we can do for the community, I don't think there's anybody up here, I'll just speak for myself, I'm not excited to take tax money from somebody's pocket. That's not unexciting. But it is an exciting prospect to see that the amount of things that we could do to benefit the entire community. Right? I did talk to somebody today who said, you know what, I voted for Measure P, but it wasn't for a pool. It was because I was really worried about the fire. And I've talked to other people that said, you know what, we could do with 1 fire station, but I really want that pool. Everybody had their own reason for voting for Measure P. All of them were valid. And so hopefully what you've seen is a pattern of your city staff working hard to do whatever they can to stretch every single dollar, and your council doing what they would say they would do with that money. And I just wanted to make sure we continue to paint that picture, that we're not, it's not frivolous spending. And so for now, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. So we'll go ahead and bring it out to public comment. Is there any public comment from the floor? Seeing none, okay. It looks like we have one caller. I have a caller on the phone. Caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Mike Neal. First of all, I'd say probably disappointing to see you have such small attendance that you don't even get one public comment from the floor on such a huge amount of money being taken out of the pockets of Ridgecrest citizens over the next 10 years. Be that as it may. I'd like to point out one thing that seems to be incongruent with being honest and transparent to the public. We were told during the last year that this pool is going to cost $9 million. Now that you got our money, we see that you plan on spending $14 million, which is about 60% more than was being told to the public. And yet, not one council member seemed to notice that, or maybe that was the plan all along. get the money and grab it and go. This is not a pool amount. This is an aquatic center amount. This is literally what Scott O'Neill years ago in the EDC proposed to be spent on their aquatics center. Now, there you go. I don't know what to say other than it sure doesn't feel like we were being told the truth about this. And now you end up with all this extra money. You got $6 million after all of this spending, including, of course, the $14 million for the pool and the $3 million that was never mentioned as to what it would take to run the thing. Still got $6 million left over. So I just want to play the game of let's jump on the big mama train for a moment. If you got all this money, here's what I'd like. I'd like a firearms range funded by the city of Ridgecrest and firearm safety classes put on for free to citizens so that they can learn how to be safe and be armed and help the police in scaring away criminals in this town. Some of us like to play billiards if we ever had a chance, but we don't have room in our homes for billiard tables. So I'd like to see a city-funded billiard hall, and that goes right in with recreation for the public. And I don't know why not. You're spending stuff on all kinds of other things for just general entertainment for the public. So let's have some of that money for something that somebody wants here. And we could go on and on and on. I could give you a list for the next 5 minutes. Assuming I believed in tax everybody like crazy in the great state of Taxifornia and then go spend it on what makes everybody feel good. And looks like that's where we're headed. So charge ahead, boys.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other public comment on the phones? I'll allow just a moment for any other public comment. Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and bring it back to council for any other further discussions. Councilman Heyman?
Well, I'd like, in regards to the pool, if you take the original amounts that we were looking at spending on the pool, say if you take $9 million, 20% of that, which is an estimated rough estimate of what costs have increased by in the last several years, or actually not even several, in the last short term, 2 or 3 years, cost of construction has gone up substantially. Anyone, if Mr. Neal sat in the quality of life meetings and seen some of these numbers, he wouldn't be questioning it. But so if you take 9 million, 20% of that's 1.8 million. Add that back together, where you at 10.8. I think our city manager said that we were looking at bonding or looking at an $11 million pool, but with a little bit of buffer because of unknowns in that. So it's really not not nearly as far out of gradient as Mr. Neal would like to present it.
Yeah, and I think just as a reminder, we want to build a pool that is going to be used by the entire community. Right now we're looking at a pool that could be used for CIF swimming, CIF water polo. And because of the design of that pool, now we're able to do water features that can be cabled into the pool where kids can climb over it, so we have a little bit more use there. Then you have the therapy pool that's heated pool for swim lessons and use for the senior citizen community. Then you have the smaller pool that can be used by the young moms with the toddlers. We're not talking about an extravagant pool. We're just talking about a complex that can be used by the most of the citizens of this community. And of course, the pool house, most of that's going to be, required because of code. You have so much pool space, you have to have so much, pool house use and have so many restrooms and stuff like that. So we're not looking at an extravagant pool. That's one of the reasons why we're going to be holding a couple of meetings. We'll have a lot of public outreach. If there is a huge demand from the community just to do a really tiny small pool, then obviously that's council's decision as policymakers to do that. I don't suspect that's going to be the case. I think people are going to want a pool that the community is going to want to use. So why pass Measure P if you just want just the bare minimum that's not going to be for everybody?
You're right, and I don't think that's what the community's after. I think that we wouldn't have seen Measure P pass if there wasn't faith that we'd go forth and do what we said we would do and benefit the community and try to improve quality of life. I think that's something we saw resoundingly in every single poll and comments back to me personally. I think that you're exactly right, Mr. Strand. We'll make it happen.
What we have to remember is that we're trying to use Measure P to improve the quality of life. They're doing the $4 billion rebuild on the installation. We know that the Navy is having a difficult time in recruitment and retention. And based upon the survey we did in October, where we had over 1,200 responses, there was a resounding amount of information that came out of that about the lack of quality of life within our community. So we are hoping to take this money that the voters have approved, use it conservatively. We're not going to spend it like drunken sailors. We're really trying to keep on the path of, we're lean staffed, we're trying to be effective in what we spend, and be able to try whatever we can to maintain our quality of life, whether it be through public safety, the access to quality law enforcement, fire service, our parks, to be able to try and be partners with our number one employer so we can help them recruit and retain these young engineers. And that's the basis for this.
So my last, it's never my last comment, but.
And I mean, if it was your last comment at 6:56, it would be a very short meeting.
I know, it'd be an easy night for you guys. We have discussed a lot of these items already, Cherie, and I know the staff has brought forth their recommendations. The council has gave some kind of general recommendation, but how solid is this list of potential future projects?
I have, Cherie, a comment. The estimated revenue is listed on your chart as $53,100,000. It's estimated because, after all, it's a 1% sales tax increase. Can I assume it'll kick in on what, April Fool's Day?
Yeah.
There's something poetically true about that, but the so we're spending like crazy on 8.25% sales tax right now. If everybody enthusiastically fell behind this and started buying locally like crazy, and that extra 1% sales tax started pouring in, so to speak, that revenue figure would come up.
Correct.
Hot dog. I think here and then later, and perhaps stuff I write, I'll be urging the community to buy locally with more intensity now than you have even in the past, because you're effectively helping build the pool with that extra 1%, helping with keep 2 firehouses going, helping staff the police and this particular administration. You could think of it like a coffee can by the cash register of every retail outlet locally that you visit and buy something from. There's a slot in the top of the coffee can where that extra 1% sales tax would go, and maybe on the side of the coffee can it would say, and using a Sharpie, go ahead, spite Mike Neal, help with the pool, the cops, and everything. That would be great. Thank you.
Go ahead and re-ask your question, Kyle.
How solid is the list of potential projects?
So this is the list as of today, but it would take us a few years to build enough reserves to do pretty much any of these projects. So it could change. That's really up to your discretion as far as what we would use the reserves for.
Yeah, but as for what we're asking today, we do plan on bringing back a budget adjustment on February 15th that would then provide a 5% COLA for the employees, as well as authorization to hire these positions that we recommended effective April 1st, as well as some additional funding for the public outreach and entertainment. So we are planning to bring back
And the pool, and the pool.
And the pool.
Pool engineering and
Correct.
and contract.
Correct, yeah, we plan on bringing all that back as a budget adjustment. That's what this meeting here is, bringing out the plan, getting comments and suggestions from council and the public. And then what we're hoping for by the end of this meeting is direction to bring back our budget adjustment plan to be able to implement these initial items.
Of course.
I mean, since we are talking about Measure P, I once again want to thank the public for passing this measure. Initially, I was a little bit doubtful about this because this is a new measure. It's easy to pass an existing measure, but to bring a new measure and getting it passed, we really thank the public. Council as a whole supported this measure, including the then council candidate, Mr. Skip Gorman, who said, please do not vote for me if you are not going to vote for Measure P. Thank you. Job well done. So I assure the community that this council will do their best and make best use of this money. Thank you very much for the confidence you have given to us and the faith you have in us, and we look forward to working with the community to make this community a better place to live and to improve the quality of life of this community. Thank you.
So, thank you, Shuri. My last reiteration is, again, the best run organizations and the best businesses that you talk to and the best of how things get done right involves plans. And it involves thought, and it involves planning and progress and knowing where you're trying to get to and setting those goals and then working towards those goals. I asked this in finance and you know, all the people that I've worked with, previous council members and city staff. Everyone out there who goes, you know, the city is just going to spend money, this is your evidence otherwise. If you're ever looking for something that shows you that the city is not just going at this to do whatever they damn well please, it's right here in writing. And we're presenting it to you 30 days before we're going to then sit up here and vote on it. And then when we sit up here and vote on it, and there's 5 of us all agree, and it goes 5-0, and there's a little bit of discussion, it's because we've spent 30 days getting ready for that decision. That's planning. That's preparation. That's good organization. You can say whatever you'd like out there, public, especially a few individuals. But it doesn't change the fact that we're doing good planning. Thank you, Shuri.
Good job. Good job, Sherry.
Okay.
Do we have any action on this?
There is no action on that. I believe it's just a presentation.
I think what I'm looking for is just a head nod from council that staff is on the right track.
That we're
to
on the
come
right
back.
track with the
move forward.
proposals.
Okay.
And
Thank
I
you.
believe that you have that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, item number, what are we on? Item number 7. Item number 7 is a resolution of the Ridgecrest City Council to spend some more money to appropriate a portion of the American Rescue Plan Act funds to replace and modernize the City of Ridgecrest server and desktop infrastructure, because computers tend to be important.
Need to be replaced every once in a while.
Every blue moon, you know,
Yeah.
Computers, last time I checked, most people replace their computers on average, every
3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years?
Yep. For home computers.
And this maybe is the first time we're making an active investment in our infrastructure in the last
I have the numbers.
10?
We're about 7.
About 7, okay, well.
Yep.
I mean, the bottom line is, take it away, Matt.
All right. Mayor, members of council, I'm here to bring back the ARPA project of the modernization and replacement of City of Ridgecrest server and desktop infrastructure.
That's slide.
That's an IT guy slide.
Yeah. Got to take pride in your slides, right?
Teach Travis.
I'm going to start with the project approach here. During the council workshop in November, you guys talked about some of the important projects. We put together a short list. This is one of those projects, so it's being brought back now. The following months, we went to vendors, we went to solutions providers, and had looks and to see what would work best for us. And that included Dell VX Rail, Nutanix HCI, which is hyper-converged infrastructure, and cloud offerings too. because there's, I think that we had to cast a wide net to make sure that we were getting the right solution for us. And people our size and organizations our size, hyper-converged infrastructure is really the way to go. It puts all your server infrastructure into one basket that's very easy to manage and maintain. While we do have a very, very skilled team, it's important that moving forward that we have the infrastructure that's easy to manage. Correct. Here's our current infrastructure, and these are actually pictures of our current infrastructure. This is the city clerk's desktop, and some of our server infrastructure. Purchased in Q4 of 16 and Q1 of 16, 6.5, 7 years old. These are all running on SATA hard drives, which are spindle disks. They are exponentially slower than what our current offerings have. And GPUs, the graphical processing units, weren't really a thing back then. Whenever we dove into virtual desktop infrastructure, we were kind of at the infancy of it, especially in the way that we present it. And so, from what we were able to do with this new offering is bring those up to speed and make them current in going with NVMe solid state hard drives, NVIDIA graphics to each one of the computers, and future expansion to 100 gig networking. Right now, all of our backbone is at 10 gig networking, which is industry standard. It's not bad, but the jump to 100 gig is what all of medium to bigger organizations are going to be doing within the next 5 to 10 years, and we'll be ready to do that. You'll see you saw in Shree's presentation, one of those potential projects would be a network infrastructure refresh, and that would allow us to get our backbone, get our distribution switches, our core layer to 100 gig to then move forward. Price breakdown. This was in the staff report. And it's basically just a breakdown of everything that is included in this proposal. And one thing that you'll notice with this is the majority of this is all infrastructure. There's not a whole lot of professional services. The majority of the professional services front will be handled by us. There is some. They're going to rack and stack all of our stuff. They're going to get us get everything into our data center. We're going to do all of the technical moves, that type of stuff. We have the expertise to do it, and it shouldn't be a problem for us. And you'll see here as well the $582,607.14 is above the 410 that we originally had budgeted for this, and I know that you guys have seen a lot of that with these ARPA projects. We've seen that from an inflationary standpoint. We've seen that from a chip shortage standpoint, and that's one thing that we continue to battle with, right? To this day. It's tough, but that 582 also has the $60,000 contingency baked into it, so we're not as far off as I thought we would be whenever we first went into negotiations with some of these companies. We're down about $120,000 from where we started. So I was pretty happy to get into this ballpark. Here's a comparison of what we had before to what we have now. You'll see the CPUs on this on our server cluster have gone down 50%, and one of the reasons for that is licensing. They license in a per CPU basis, so we're able to save some money in licensing. But you can also see peak CPU and net CPU are up, 74% free and up 43%. Another thing that we had an issue with our older deployments was memory. We had some smaller, RAM in our older hosts. We made sure that was not going to be an issue here. Along with our storage, making sure that we have enough storage to handle the foreseeable future. And this is the VDI side of it, which pretty well closely mirrors the server side. The VDI side is a little bit bigger. Those are serviced by 220 volts. They have GPUs in them. They're workhorses. Future considerations. Here is a graphic, kind of how we're looking to rack everything whenever it comes in. Licensing and maintenance after year 3 is when it starts to kick in. So as of right now, we spend about $15,000 to $20,000 in maintenance of our current systems. We won't be spending that, but after year 3, it's an 11 to 13% total cost, or of your total cost in maintenance for the subsequent years. Life cycle expectancy, about 5 to 7 years for these. Industry standards, about 5 years for server infrastructure like this. Completion timeline, about 4 to 6 months for order confirmation. They've given me 3 months is about the lead time for the server infrastructure. 2 months for all of the smaller stuff is what I've been told with that. Chip shortage has gotten a lot better over these last couple of months. We've been able to kind of get some more stuff. I'll touch on that with some of our other projects in a couple subsequent slides. Another future consideration is our network equipment is currently at year 7 production. And that was back to Sherie's presentation. Something that we're going to have to look at in the near future is those systems they're not failing. But they're
Switches and routers?
What's that?
You're talking about your switches
Correct,
and routers?
correct. Firewall from our core layer all the way down to our access layer. That's exactly what we're talking about. Another future consideration that I didn't put on here, but one thing that we're aware of is because the majority of our infrastructure is built on VMware, which is our hypervisor, which virtualizes all of our servers, all of our desktops. VMware was acquired by Broadcom, which is a bigger company, earlier last year. There's a lot of people singing doom and gloom about it. But it's something that we have a big investment into, and we have a lot of services through them. If there is going to be something that comes from that, there's going to be a market shakeup. It's got to happen, and I don't foresee that happening for years to come, right? So in this, if we might be getting into year 4, 5, 6 and have to start thinking about, if those prices get too high, then, but this allows us the agility to be able to do that because we're not locked into a VMware offering with this hardware, but it lends itself well to a VMware environment. They partner very well. So it's something that we're keeping a pulse on, and something that we're aware of. But just want to let everybody know that, put that out there, that we're keeping a close pulse on those type of things. An ongoing projects update. I want to make sure that
I'm going to have you go back one just real quick.
Sure.
Not looking for an exacts, just ballpark.
Yep.
If you had to do your switches and routers, how much more do you need?
I'm thinking it'll probably be about 200.
Okay.
Yeah. An ongoing projects update. I wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of what we're doing as a staff, because obviously this is going to be a big project, and let you guys kind of know what's on our plate and how everything's working. Our Wi-Fi project is complete on our side, but we're waiting for access point deliveries. We've been waiting for access point deliveries for 8 months due to chip shortages, and it is the most frustrating thing in the world. Me and my guys talk about this every single day, and it's beyond frustrating, but the infrastructure's there, all of the configurations there. As soon as those things come through the door, they're ready to go on the roofs and finish that project up. As soon as we can get that thing finished, yeah, we're gonna have a party in the office, because it's gonna be great. Power fortification. The 2 to 3 month lead time of our server VDI infrastructure is actually kind of good for us, because we do have that power fortification project that's underway in the server room. Talked to the electrician today. It's looking like middle of February is when he's going to be able to do that. That's a brand new panel into the server room, multiple circuits, so that we'll have not only redundancy of having a battery backup, we're going to have multiple battery backups that are routed to redundant power supplies, so we can sustain multiple failures, and that's really one thing that we've been making a priority is that redundancy moving forward. Pocket data centers, you could see them working on, or you'd see Riley working on one right there. Phase one is 80%. And what phase one is putting all those up, getting all those Wi-Fi runs done to it. All the fiber runs are done to that. We went through 3 spools of 1,000 feet of fiber in that roof. And I don't know if you guys have ever ran cable in an attic, or it's miserable. I know that those guys hate me because they have a lot of insulation in their skin, but they've been doing a heck of a job. So we're looking at finishing that up very soon. And phase 2 is going to go all the way into fiscal year 25. And what phase 2 is, it's a very ambitious project that we have of completely rewiring the entire city, because the Cat 5 cable is from the late 80s, right? And so pushing the data that we want to push across this network isn't feasible with that type of cable. So we have it on our roadmap to make sure that all of that infrastructure is replaced. We're using all the old cable as pull cable, and then we have a plan to pull back those pocket data centers. And so that's going to be it's always an ongoing project. I know that John's kind of taken that one on as his pet project, and he's been doing a really good job there. Cameras, we've currently added 11 cameras. We're up at around 80 cameras citywide, and working on replacing legacy cameras there in the office now. It's just time. And that's one thing that's exciting about where we are as an IT department right now is we, with the third position that we got, we had some turnover. And so we had the training aspect to it, the learning, because I'm sure everybody knows from a recruitment standpoint, it's tough to get somebody senior, somebody tenured. I got 2 really great guys. Were they seniored and tenured? Absolutely not. Would I hire them 100 times over? Absolutely. They're great. They're great guys, and we've been we hit the ground running. And so we're finally getting to the point where we're kind of getting over the hump to then be able to get a lot of these things done rather than sit and train, right? So it's an exciting time for us. Here's a little collage of kind of the work that we've been doing over a couple months. So it's take a lot of pride in it, and we've really been enjoying it. So just wanted to throw that one in there, and that's really what I had. So if there's any questions, comments, I'm open to anything.
Well, I'm going to jump off just real quickly with a couple things, which is first, thank you for the great presentation. Please thank your team. I know getting up on the lifts and going through insulation and wiring is not fun. No. But I have to have everyone jump on the little vision train with me. Mm-hmm. Guys, computers and infrastructure, guys, these stupid things here, these are less than 20 years old. We have children amongst us that have been born, and they only know these existed, but they don't even know before. My 3-year-old has a rotary mini mouse phone, and she doesn't even know what the hell it is. But she knows how to open my iPhone in 5 seconds.
Absolutely.
And the point of that is that if you are going to have a city that is going to have $4 billion worth of investment into one of the most modern military bases in our nation, and you go down to do an event at your city hall, and you can't get on the Wi-Fi, I guarantee you what it does is it makes it look like Mickey Mouse or Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. I was trying to find the right analogy, but that's it. We're sitting there with the Acme sign, and the Roadrunner's running circles around us. This is the exact opposite. This is investment in what you come to expect from an organization that is doing its best. which is that you come to an event like our Economic Outlook Conference, or you rent Kern McGee for a wedding. And you know what? You're going to have a wedding. And you know what you say? You say, I want to show a video of the bride and groom, and I want to stream it from my phone. And the city goes, do you have the technology to do that? Because I know we don't have the technology to do that. As opposed to, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, we'd be happy to be able to make that memory for you. It's a world of difference. And it's a world of difference of how the city is viewed when you come to use the city services, when you come to expect from your city. ARPA hit us all in the pocketbook, still continues to, but this is the right type of investment in making our infrastructure as strong and resilient as possible. And thank you for addressing power, because one of my questions was clean power. That was going to be my next one, was if you said the switches, then the next thing was going to be power.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't have one, you can fix all the things in the world, but if you don't fix them all right and you leave one that's just, you go, well, I can limp along longer with that 10-year-old turd. It's the first one that will break on you and cause everything else to systematically fail.
Absolutely. I like to sleep at night.
Without
Sleep
fail.
at night with those.
And so this is a huge improvement. Thank you for giving the progress on the Wi-Fi too. I love hearing that. I hear you about the access points. I understand now. That makes a huge explanation. And then just to reiterate for the public, when he was talking about Project 2, and the further expansion, that's us taking advantage of the race agreement and getting the Wi-Fi out into our parks and recreation locations and getting it out into the city and making sure that when you come to the city to use our facilities, and I hope in 2 years that when you are a visiting CIF water polo player and you're coming to compete at Penny Pool and your parents are sitting on the sidelines, that they have access to a great Wi-Fi network, they have access to great community services, and you know what they do when they go home from that? They remember it. They remember it. So, thank you. Kyle's. I can see Kyle gripping his hand. So I'm going to wait for. I'm ready for my Kyle.
No, I had a smart aleck comment to make, but I'm going to hold it back. Matt, thank you for bringing this forward. We had asked you multiple. I think it was at the last, not this. What year was it? We really pressed you to bring forward what you thought the IT department needed and how we were going to improve the city. And you've done that. I really appreciate the hard work that went into this. Appreciate the hard work that you and your guys are doing. When you were talking about your guys not liking you for putting them in the attic, Riley was back there giving you a thumbs up.
I appreciate that.
It's just much appreciated. There's not much to say. When the city first found out that ARPA funds were coming, we didn't know what we were going to be able to spend it on, what we were going to be able to do, how that money was going to shake out. Cherie's pulling her hair out because she's trying to talk to the state every single day, and it was never clear. The very first thing I said was, I don't think money should go to anything but infrastructure. And the whole rest of the city council were like, oh, I don't know about that, man. But for this ARPA fund, that's my number one priority, is infrastructure. So it's much appreciated. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Just want to thank you for your hard work, Matt. You are protecting the city. This would be one of my top priorities, because in this age and age, having the right kind of software and hardware is very important. We constantly hear about data breaches, hacks, cyber attacks, identity thefts. So unless we upgrade our systems whenever required, we are prone to vulnerability all the time. I don't know if you guys remember Y2K. You were like 10 years, 15 years at that time?
Cell phones too. I don't even was born before Y2K.
Yeah.
It was before cell phones too. On top of it.
And so that was scary. We thought entire system of the bank would be wiped out. So we were prepared for so many things. So that is the type of risk we are taking nowadays. And then think about the FAA grounding down the flights on January 5th or 6th because there was an error in the computers Probably it was a cyber attack, we don't know. So I really appreciate what you're doing for bringing this for our approval. So hopefully you keep doing that, and it's high time we replace this, because generally the cycle you said is 3 to 5 years. We are into 7 years now, so we better get this done as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Before I jump to Scott, I'm going to let him go next, but I do want to just say one thing is on the switches and routers.
Yep.
And this is for City Manager Strand as well as for Sri. I don't know if we find it, if you're bringing budget revisions in February, if there is space, I know I certainly would personally support letting him do all of the work at the same time, then separated work. If the switches and routers are at 7 years, and if you are planning to go to 100 gigabyte infrastructure, which you have the support which RACE is bringing you, and because it requires a lead time, I certainly would believe that if there should be sufficient budget space to accomplish the routers and switches. Matt is in love with me, I know it,
Matt,
but okay.
Eric, I'm looking at Shree's face. Matt, I don't think you're getting.
No, I think
you're gonna get those
think some of us won the bet that Matt's the mayor's favorite.
Yeah.
Oh, Matt's
We figured that Matt's the mayor's favorite. We guessed that.
I think there's a
We
real
knew
big
coming into
argument
this
that
that Matt was
Narissa
gonna
wins
end up-
that award, okay, just for the record.
No, we
There's-
had bet that Matt was going to walk away with more than what he was asking for by the end of the meeting.
It's every single budget.
Yeah, we said that.
Merry Christmas, Matt. But I'm just saying, again, if he says, if my IT person is saying my routers and my switches are sitting that 7 to 9 year lifespan, one will fail and one will become cataclysmic across the board in other ways that I know from the finance meeting how we're doing fiscally. I unfortunately know those facts. And, huh? You got enough already. How many cars did we get you 11 years? How many cars did you get last year?
Battery backups for Matt.
We got it. His batteries already took care of that last year, remember? Okay. But my point being is, I don't know if there's room, but in terms of future items, if there's space to be able to at least even prioritize the ordering of those, I would certainly, I know I personally would support that. I don't know about the rest of the council, but I would certainly be open to hearing that discussion.
I'm not agreeing to anything until Shree signs off on it.
Me neither. No.
I would say, I know that's Matt's case too. But yes, IT is very high on the mayor's list, and I'm not going to lie about that. And clearly somebody knew that this was coming. So I'll be quiet now. Scott, Doc, you want to save me here?
Short and sweet. I think you're doing a great job, Matt, and I think it's important you have the tools that you need to continue to do that job, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
Matt. Thank you. I got to visit with Matt and his cohorts, and it was delightful in a digital sort of way. They got their own gravitational field in there. And I couldn't help but think back in the last millennium, I guess, me and the guys on base in John Denson's branch started Microsystems on the back of an old IMSAI, front toggle S100 backplane computer that used an 8080, an Intel 8080. Hokey smokes, Moore himself was just giving birth to Moore's Law at that time. And I shared with them the extent to which we got a few bucks from the Air Force and had the first hard drive on base. And it was about the size of a bread box, and you plugged it in, somebody found the on button, and it spun up like a jet engine. You had to step back. It was scary. It held all of 18 kilobytes of mass storage on a big stacked spinning disk. And we thought at the time, who in the world could use that much storage for anything? It was, and I look at the numbers you're using now, it's breathtaking.
Absolutely.
I not only thank you, I envy you. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, what I could do is I can talk with Matt and see how that lies in the priority. If there's, obviously it's time oriented. If that's something you can fit into the current project, then there's no need not to address it.
Is Riley back there waving me off?
No, you're saying thumbs up?
Yeah, he's giving thumbs up. It's just, there's 160 of them already scheduled in there, okay? Be careful, I'll send you one. The key element is it's all good communication. So let's go ahead and go out to the public and see if there's any public comment. Is there any public comment from the floor? I don't see any. Is there any public comment on the phones? We're spending money here.
I got it easy.
Okay, no public comment. We'll bring it back to the council. Again, I think this is great. I think the whole direction is the right direction for, reflecting a modern city means that you invest in matching the technology and the expectations that people have of the technology. Now we'll just have to have some mobile apps and some other things and some more things that have to ride on his rails. So I don't have anything further. Is there any other discussion?
I have,
You have one?
I have one.
Go for it.
One correction.
Correction, there it is.
In the resolution, let's move on from 2022 to 2023.
Oh, I thought I got all that.
Oh,
you missed one.
And then,
You got Travis.
right here at the bottom. Did you find it? No. You found it?
Which one is it? The bottom, what? On the resolution?
Oh, in January
2022, yep. This 18th day of January, 2023.
So close.
So close.
Travis does, he tells me, could you please proofread everything I said to you? Matt doesn't tell me that, so.
The sad thing is somebody did say something about 23, and I still
Matt,
did miss
I just want to
one.
let you know that we appreciate your honest error and the fact that you don't need babysitting. So, oh, maybe you do. Wait, your wife is disagreeing with me. So, I do want to go ahead, and since we didn't address it as a council, just real quickly for the sake, this is higher than what the original estimate was. This will further diminish potential future ARPA projects. We are still well within the contingency of our ARPA dollars that we had allocated,
Correct.
but had not moved forward on. And I believe that this still relative to the cost is 100% in line with what the cost expectations are in the market.
Correct. Yeah, over the next few months, you're going to see a few more of the ARPA projects coming your way.
Yeah. I think we're going to see another one right after this, too.
Yeah, that was, I was waiting for a comment. That was one thing I was going to ask, is if your increase was going to knock anything else off the list that, do we have on the ARPA list projects?
No, I mean, the list had its priorities.
Yep.
And we knew the last 5 to 6 months when these costs started elevating 20, 30% more than what we'd anticipated, that some of these projects were going to get knocked off the list.
I mean, not sugarcoating, and I know we don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. We know that the biggest single project that was outstanding on the ARPA list in terms of priority, in terms of the dropping, was was building a whole new field at the Kerr-McGee Center, or Kerr-McGee Fields. Mm-hmm. And because that was the $1 million venture. And I think there's still a very strong sentiment amongst council and amongst Parks and Recs to continue to look at solutions for the Kerr-McGee Fields. I don't think that's off the table in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think staff's working on a quote for artificial turf
Right.
on the pony field, yes.
But I think we're moving away further from ARPA and closer to
P.
Measure P in terms of where that project's funding would come from.
Right, and I do believe staff is following council's direction on priority of projects. So I don't think we're going to lose out or bypass a a project the council considered a priority.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. Do I have a motion for approval of the resolution as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor Bruin,
Aye.
Mr. Blades,
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam,
Aye.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Mr. Gorman.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, my favorite. Thanks for coming. Had no idea that was already planned, but that's hilarious. Okay, next is item number 8. A resolution of the Ridgecrest City Council approving a purchase and sale agreement with Race Communications for the purchase of 1521 North China Lake Boulevard, identified as APN 419-07316. And if I am correct, this is the building formerly known as the Matrix Building.
Correct. What this resolution will authorize is myself, as a city manager, to assign or sign the purchase and sale agreement. As you know, in closed session, council had authorized us to move forward on the sale of that building to Race Communications, which will be their local headquarters. We did go through the surplus sale act back in '21, and we put it out. We had nobody interested in purchasing the property, so that allowed us to open it up to anybody. And like I said, this agreement will allow us to finalize that purchase and sale.
Okay. So I don't have a lot of questions. I'm just going to mention a few simple facts just for the record. This is a purchase price of $300,000.
Correct.
For the entire complex of the Matrix Building. Race will be paying that in full. And there is no planned purpose for funds beyond general funds at this time, correct?
We do plan to bring a matter to closed session on February 1st.
Okay.
To discuss.
But then that would still be general funds.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm saying it's not being pre-allocated to any specific project.
No, sir.
Okay, is there any questions or discussion from other council members?
Nothing.
I do have one question. Mr. Strand, this building is pretty old building, I think, right? Is there any asbestos problem, any liability for the city?
No, Race Communication is purchasing the building as is.
Okay. So we are clear.
It's an as-is purchase.
Okay, that's good. Another question, I mean, not a big deal, but in the resolution, we mentioned Exhibit A under Section 2, but I don't see an Exhibit A here, so the purchase and sale agreement, I think.
Is it Exhibit B or A?
Exhibit B, sorry. I didn't have my glass.
I think Exhibit B is the purchase and sale agreement. Exhibit A is the list of the surplus properties that we had taken to council back in
That
'21.
Exhibit B is not attached, I think.
Yeah, B is the actual purchase and sale agreement
Okay.
through Colwell Realty. And we can have
Okay,
that,
that's
we can have
fine.
that attached.
Yeah, when I process the resolution, I'll make sure that both
Okay.
are attached.
Sure. Thank you.
Good catch, Solomon.
Thank you, sir.
I have a comment.
Absolutely.
I'm glad to see these buildings ultimately put to use. They've been sitting idle for a long time, and even before they were simply sitting idle, they present a dour front to China Lake Boulevard. Could somebody with a long memory please share with me what these two buildings were originally built for?
They actually were built for the production of parts of the Tomahawk missile. 'Cause I
What was
worked-
the name of that company that did spillover mechanical work for the base?
I'm not sure. Yeah, Aerosmith. Yeah, Aerosmith
Aerosmith,
Industries. Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, I worked a case where somebody stole a bunch of titanium billets. that
It
they used
wasn't
to-
me.
Yeah. That was a long time ago.
I thank you.
No comments.
Okay, no other further comments from the council. We'll go ahead and bring it out to the public. Is there any public comment in regards to the resolution? I see no public comments from the floor. I'll give it a second for the phones. We're not spending money this time, we're selling something. Okay, no comments from the phones. We'll go ahead and bring it back to the council. Any further discussion, or I'll entertain a motion for approval of the resolution as presented.
Move approval.
I have a motion, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a motion and a second. Roll call.
Mayor Bruin,
Aye.
Mr. Blades,
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam,
Aye.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Mr. Gorman.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Next item is item number 9. This is a resolution to amend a professional services agreement with Quadnoff?
You just say QK.
With QK in the amount of $14,700 for the citywide street crack fill project to include additional professional engineering design services. Mr. Reed, and I apologize, I'm going to excuse myself to the restroom for a moment while you present. You know, I'm used to hearing you.
I'll take care of you.
I might be able to get this one done without getting bartered. Anyway, so as you guys know, we got two, I'm going to call them a grant, emergency repair grants, one from FHWA for some of our major arterials, and another one from Cal OES for some of our smaller local and secondary arterial streets to repair cracks that were deemed caused by the earthquake. In researching that and trying to prepare a set of plans that could be comprehensively bid by bidders, we used up the majority of our allocated budget, and to a point where I still was not satisfied with the plan set that we could develop from the product that we were, from the information that we had garnered. Subsequent to that, we approved a contract with IMS to do detailed crack mapping of the streets. We received the data for the streets that were in question for this, and then we implemented that data into a comprehensive 32-sheet plan set. This specifies where all the large cracks, the ones that are going to cause the biggest hit on the amount of fundings we have available, and then we will allocate the rest of the smaller cracks on an as-needed basis based on visual examination. So what this is for is this is to amend the professional services agreement to allocate the funds to basically back pay Quadnoff for the work rendered in getting us a comprehensive bid set. Again, with the cost changes that we've seen on all of our projects, I'm 150% in belief that spending this amount up front will render us a lot more in return when we get out in the field, and will prohibit unnecessary change orders. And with that, I'm open to any questions you guys might have.
No questions here. I remember we talked about this ad nauseum. So it's,
So can you clarify on the refund?
So the refund is set up to where we have certain streets that were granted by FHWA. So FHWA is the Federal Highway Administration. The only roads that qualify under FHWA are based off of class, and there are larger roads. So FHWA reimburses at a rate of 75%. So we would have a 25% local match on those streets. The remainder of the streets are going to be refunded by Cal OES. That's the emergency operations group that funded a lot of the major repair work that came up after the earthquake. The city's been diligent in keeping their applications active and has kept Cal OES in the loop along the way, so that way they understood why this project has drug out as much as it has. They were thankful that we are doing our due diligence and we spent the money to do the crack mapping, because that gives us the ability to lay out a plan and actually fix what needs to be fixed, have a better quantification of the amount that we're going to use, and it'll help keep us in line with the budgetary number that we set when we filed this claim. Now, Cal OES reimburses on a rate of, I want to say it's 85% to begin with, but then they have an additional 10% that you can get for admin and overhead. So we have the ability.
That's where I'm confused. So it says here, Cal OES refunding an additional 18.75% for a total of 93.75%.
Correct. So the total of 93.75% is what we would estimate would be returned to us when we file our final claim on the total project. So, and then lastly, it's, like I said, this is for preliminary engineering work. So preliminary engineering work, we had a budgetary number that, I forget what it was. The number that's in your packet is for preliminary engineering and construction engineering. So that's for the field services, inspection, and for preliminary engineering. So preliminary engineering through FHWA is reimbursable for 75%. We'll have to file an amendment with them to see if we can get that approved. So I can't guarantee the full amount for FHWA would be reimbursed, but after speaking with Mac and the guys from Cal OES, they feel that the money that we were spending up front now is very viable to help keep us under or on budget in the future. And the dollar figure up front, I would say, is probably 1/10 of the amount that we would be spending on the back end if this were to go to the change order process. So in my opinion, it's money well spent. Even if we don't get this full amount returned to us, we have a better shot of having this returned to us than we would if we went in and got into a big, huge change order, 30 change order project with both agencies.
So talking about the same percentages, if you look at the resolution, I don't know if you have a copy of that in front of you. The last whereas, I think it's a little bit different than what you stated in the presentation. I think it should say Federal Highway Administration at 75 and Cal OES at 18.75.
We could add that. Like I said, 75% was more of just a safe number that I was putting in there that I knew we would meet.
Okay.
So if we would like that verbiage added, not a problem.
No, if you think that is right, that's fine.
I just think that's a safe number that with what we're committing to, I can say wholeheartedly that I feel we'll get at least 75% reimbursed, so we'd only be on the hook for a quarter of the project.
Sure. I mean, but if you look at the previous resolution, original one, it specified that differently, so.
The previous resolution specified that differently because that was based off of our estimates, and that's numbers we could call, with what we estimated, they would guarantee that we could get that back.
Okay.
So like I said, there's still a few unknowns with this one. I don't want to come out and say that, yes, we're going to get all $14,000 back, and then we only get 75% of it back, where I'm very confident that I think we'll get the 75%.
Excellent.
So, and I'm just trying to be open and honest so you understand where the numbers would fall and balance out.
Thank you, sir.
I apologize, I missed the beginning of your presentation, but I just want to clarify one sentence. These plans will enable bidders to bid the project in a way that does not leave everything to interpretation?
Correct. So with the route that we were taking originally, we would have 3 methods of repair. We're still utilizing those 3 methods of repair, but we did not have a set of plans that showed the cracks that we wanted repaired. So it would have been all up to the eye. So you would have had contractors going out, walking the streets, thinking, they tell us we've got 25,000 square feet of crack we need to remediate, but we really feel like this is 75,000. So we could have one contractor that would bid it off the number, and another contractor that said, I'm not going to bid it off this number because I think we're going to be way over, and I don't want to have a bunch of change orders. So we could get one bid back at 200 grand and another one back at 1.2 million.
Gotcha.
So. And that's not to say that we won't get that still, but we've got a lot less likelihood, less chance.
Explains what you're attempting to achieve.
Yes.
Other questions? Other questions or comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and bring it back to the public. Is there any public comment or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask if there's any on the phones. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and bring it back to the council. And do I have a motion to approve the resolution to amend the professional services agreement with QK in the amount of $14,700?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Roll call?
Mayor Bruin,
Aye.
Mr. Blades,
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam,
Aye.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Mr. Gorman.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Oh, and you're doing the next one. The next is number 10 is a resolution of the Ridgecrest City Council to appropriate an additional portion of the American Rescue Plan Act funds for additional design services for the Leroy Jackson Park bathroom.
So the old adage of we've got the cart before the horse, learn from the best. We definitely have the cart before the horse on this one. We're trying to implement council's direction of doing the bathroom at the same time with the Clean Cal. And although we haven't brought the Leroy Jackson bathroom project to you for official approval, we're asking for an additional appropriation of the ARPA funds to prepare for that. So with all the work we're doing at the Leroy Jackson Park, as you guys mentioned previously, that it just makes sense to get the ADA path done, the pad set up, the utilities ran over there. So that way, once the project's approved, we can set the bathroom and go. So more of a timing thing. So we're just asking to appropriate that extra $18,710 so we can have our full design package. So when we put the Clean Cal package out to bid, we take advantage of the locality and the mob and demob, and we don't have a second contractor or another contractor that's trying to mob at the same time, and then you've got two contractors trying to work on the same site. And in my experience with that, that never goes well. So we're officially trying to put the cart before the horse, and I'm asking for money to get this designed now.
You're planning.
Yes, we're planning. There you go.
Actually, I look at it a little bit differently. By having this work done, we'll be able to come to you with a better bid estimate.
There you go. That's
So
probably
when we ask for money for the project, we won't have to come back for a 25% adjustment.
There you go.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because you really weren't selling it with the cart before the horse comment.
But I mean, it technically kind of is.
Oh, Lord.
But at least I can tell you this: there's already ARPA funds approved on this project for the tennis courts. So.
So this is just, again, this is plan work, so that when we roll everything, it can roll same time.
So it'll also save us, I would bet that the money that we would have to do, if we put this out as a separate project and you bid it separately, you would have advertisement, bidding aid, all this stuff, you would have $7,000 to $10,000 that we're saving because we're gonna do this all as part of the Clean California Agreement. So you're cutting out about $7,000 or
We're
about.
cutting out 6 months of time
And
probably
we're,
too.
exactly, and we're cutting out
Right.
6 months of time, one mob. So you've got a big chunk of change that we're gonna cut out if we didn't do this at the same time as we're working on Clean.
Right. And this is the reason why you're not seeing the bathroom project for approval tonight, because we really want to work on, get the numbers right, because we know the required ADA improvements that we have to have with putting that bathroom and snack bar in are a requirement, and we know that's going to bounce up the cost of what we had anticipated for the bathroom.
Okay.
And unless we know square footage and how we're gonna get the path there, it's pretty hard to give you an estimate as to how much that's gonna cost.
Yeah, and it does accomplish that ADA improvement. It is sometimes embarrassing having people having to carry people in the wheelchairs across the lawn.
No, yeah,
This, this gets us out there, so this is it's a good thing.
No, and it gets it done in advance. It's just getting it done.
Exactly.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. I know this is all part of the Leroy Jackson work, so Skip, I'll start with you. Anything?
No, I have nothing to offer.
Scott?
No comments.
Solomon? Nothing. Okay, so I don't have any other items from here. I'll go first. Is there any public comment from the floor? Seeing none, I do see we have public comment on the phones. We'll go ahead and take that. Caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Mike Neal. A little history about park bathrooms here. Years ago, I remember quite distinctly because I was totally shocked at the amount. The bathroom at the Kerr-McGee ball field was put up in an interesting fashion. It was mostly the structure itself was built off-site, carted in, put down on the pad, and the cost for that was $600 a square foot. I tried to state, just awestruck nature, I guess, at seeing that. One of the current city engineers at the time seemed not to think much of it. Trusted all this planning and everything for this bathroom and any other of the projects on the ball fields are going to help us avoid anything near that kind of a cost. I mean, I know this is California. I know you can't do anything other than the most expensive way here, but that's the kind of thing where you put it out to the public and everybody goes, shakes their head, stomps their foot, and groans about how much tax they have to pay. So I hope we can certainly avoid anything anywhere near that expensive on this. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. I believe we are looking at a similar type of structure comes in places, correct? Yes.
It's similar construction, not the same as the one that was at Kerr-McGee. It's closer to what we did over at the splash pad.
At the splash pad, correct? Yes. Okay. And that's all. That includes also the time locks and some of the other things, some of the features that we've liked at the Kerr-McGee one, correct? Or at the splash pad one, I would call it. Okay. Any other public comment on the phones? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and bring it back to council. Is there any other discussion? Hearing if there is none, then I'll accept a motion approval of I will accept a motion for the approval of resolution number 10, a resolution to allocate an additional portion of the American Rescue Plan funds for design services for the Leroy Jackson Park bathroom.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second. Roll call.
Mayor Bruin.
Aye.
Mr. Blades.
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Mr. Gorman.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Real quick, you guys want a little update on Ward?
Sure.
So Ward Street Phase 1 has started. We removed asphalt between the two manholes that had.
We're about to get interrupted.
By the attorney?
Yeah, we're off the agenda.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was waiting for the attorney to say that.
Travis, let me call you back under city manager comment.
Okay.
Got it.
Sounds like a plan. Kyle, my face is turned this way, and I can feel it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Good.
Because I said, yeah, sure, because of course I want to know what's going on with the ward, but we'll get in the city manager report. Thank you very much, sir.
You still got it, Keith.
I'm still learning, Keith. I'm still learning.
Quick on the draw.
Next is item number 11. Item number 11 is discussion regarding the board of the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. Mr. Heyman.
Thank you, Mayor. So the board did meet last Wednesday on January 11th. We had a record short meeting, and we had one primary agenda item, which was item number 9, authorizing the general manager to execute a funding agreement for the Urban Communities Drought Relief Program. So basically what that consisted of in fiscal year 2022 and 2023 State Budget Act, reauthorized and appropriated $285 million back to the DWR. And then again in the same, fiscal year 2022 and 2023, that program was expanded to include construction or installation of recycled water projects that provide immediate relief to potable water supplies, and broadened new wells or rehabilitation of existing wells to provide emergency relief. And so we will be putting in 2 grant applications, and project number 1 will be the water recycling plant, and project number 2 will be the well mitigation rehabilitation. The amount will be, for the recycled water plant will be up to about $5.3 million that we'll be applying for in that grant. So hopefully we'll get it, and that would give us a substantial funding to help us with the recycled water plant. There is a 25% non-state cost share, but if we qualify for a waiver, which we think we do, that will be submitted at the same time as the application, so we'll be able to hopefully get a waiver for the 25%. So that's all I have. It's a short meeting.
Okay. Any other council questions for Mr. Heyman? No? Thank you, sir, for that report. We'll go ahead and see if there is any public comment from the floor. Seeing none, there is public comment on the phones. Caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Mike Neal again. What Mr. Heyman just touched on, the recycled water treatment plant. I'd like to make a statement of claim here, essentially, as far as to the water coming out of that plant. The water that's going to go into that plant is water that's exclusively, other than a little bit coming from the base, residents of Ridgecrest who are paying the water district to supply them that water. They're paying for the water district's infrastructure, they're paying for the city's sewer infrastructure, they're paying for the recycled water treatment plant, paying for all of it. So it's their water. Now, I get the sense, and you know, it can not be right here, but I get the sense that at some point, the city is going to take the stance that that water belongs to them, and they want to, in some fashion, sell it back to the very people who it belongs to. I think that is just absolutely wrong, and the city needs to instruct the GA, and they need to instruct their city manager that the water coming out of that plant is going to go physically wherever it goes. It's going to be credited to the water district on its allocation of water in this valley. That's the only right thing to do with that water. Now, on another subject, as far as the cost of the imported water pipeline, I addressed this with the GA last week, and I'd like to bring this up. I promised the water district I would bring this up to the council. There's a large cost involved with that project, and the numbers as of 3 to 4 years ago have been put forward by the TAC committee of the GA, and I have put a spreadsheet together that demonstrates quite clearly that if we do the 60-mile-long pipeline from Cal City, called nomenclature the AVEC pipeline project, that it's going to cost residents of this valley $87 per month extra expense from them for that pipeline. This is using GA-supplied numbers. This is using water district-supplied numbers as to numbers of households. This is using a number that I had to use for the inflation rate since 2019, which it was agreed by the water district finance manager that the number I used was a good number. And I'm going to be putting this out to the public because the GA has not put together a comprehensive estimate here, and they have not put it out to the public, and the public's not informed on this. Now, anybody who wants to look at this, you can email me and ask for a copy. I'm not just going to send it to you just all together. I welcome inputs as far as additions or corrections to this for an amount of clarity or anything that might be missing. But like I said, pretty soon I'm going to be putting out, and I don't foresee that very many people are going to be very happy with this amount of cost incurred on their pocketbooks. But it's what reality is, and transparency demands that the public be made aware of this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other public comment on the phones, or?
Hang on.
I'll be quiet.
Do you want me to respond briefly to the legal issue that was raised? Mr. Neal suggested that the water coming from the city's treatment plant was owned by the citizens and not the city. It's essentially a false dichotomy, obviously, but the city represents the citizens. But there is a statute specifically on this that indicates that as far as the city and, say, the water district or any other claimants to the water might be concerned, the water coming out of the treatment plant is owned by the operator of the treatment plant, which is the city.
No problem. Okay, is there any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and bring it back to council. Thank you. Is there any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to committee reports. We have, it looks
Mr.
like
Mayor.
economic development and finance.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lemieux has to get on the road. He has a
Okay.
long drive home. He has some meetings in the morning, so he's going to excuse himself.
Understood. Thank you, Keith, for being here. Thank you for joining us and for a educational closed session earlier today.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Keith.
Okay. So next is our committee reports. I'll let you go first.
Sure. Yeah, economic development, we met just on the 11th. We had 4 different discussion items. The first one was development projects, and we've seen that map updated. The staff did a good job. Thank you. So if you are curious about what's going on in Ridgecrest, you can get it right online. I think the DI did a pretty good job of getting something out there. Thanks, Jessica. The Economic Outlook Conference, I don't know what the exact date is, but I know it's in February. You wouldn't happen to...
23rd.
23rd.
I've just heard 3 different dates.
2 different dates.
25th.
It's the 23rd,
23rd.
Thursday, the 23rd.
Yeah.
Okay, the 23rd of February is going to be the Economic Outlook Conference. And there was some discussion about this, and it'll come up again for the entire council. But just so you guys know, at the committee meeting, we discussed contributing some dollar amount to the conference itself.
Okay.
We, the committee, are proposing to you, the council, a $3,500 contribution. But if you propose more, then that's okay too. But just so you know, that's what we came up with.
So this is I'm assuming the city is just joining on the sponsor list.
I think we need to put this on an agenda as an action.
It has to be
Say
an
this would be a
agenda item.
future agenda.
It has to be, but I'm just telling you, the committee is
Yeah.
proposing.
It's proposing.
Right, there's no decisions, but we're proposing to the council that this be something that we do. And the council just needs to take it back and consider it, think about it, toss it around.
Okay.
We talked about Placer AI. There's a lot more to follow on that. We're probably going to end up having to we probably need to do a demo for the committee, if not the council, on what Placer AI can offer. This has been a while back, but Buxton did come in and in front of the Tyler City Council, did a demo to show what this kind of software can do. I don't know if everybody really wants to be bored with the details right now. Josh, it looks like you're...
I just sat through the Buxton.
Oh, you sat through that? Jeez, Louise. Well, then you don't need to sit through the Placer AI one. But kind of more of the same software, but I think the interface is a little bit more usable personally, but more to follow. It was a topic of discussion. And there was a discussion about downtown Balsam and a possible community event down there coming February, but I think that's going to be more info to follow on that. I'm not going to state anything definitively. Looking over to the staff on that one.
That'll be part of my city manager comment.
All right, I'll leave it alone. Mr. Roger Rotten, anything else? Is that it?
I think you covered, the businesses, new businesses coming into town. We talked about Habit Burger. Is that public information? I'm sorry.
Yes, that's public. Yeah, they signed a lease agreement that is public,
Okay.
yes.
And the other ice cream spike.
Yeah, Frosty Peaks?
Frosty.
Yeah, Frosty Peaks ice cream. In fact, they're in there working on the store right now.
It's going right next to our Chipotle.
Correct.
Yeah.
Kmart is not public yet, right?
I don't know. Yeah, it's public. It's public enough. They the Kmart the people that own the old Kmart building have leased the building to U-Haul. So U-Haul will be doing indoor storage and sales. So I think we're confident enough that we did get an email from the owner and real estate agent.
Sorry if I put you on spot.
Oh, no, you're okay. We're always kind of reluctant to give certain information because once you get that out there, sometimes it takes a year or two for it to come to fruition, and then all we hear is where is it at and what's going on, and so.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, that's all.
All right, so we got.
Okay, finance met on the 10th. Again, another great finance meeting. Can't stress enough the amount of planning and discussion and what's going on in those meetings is exactly what you as citizens are seeing up here, which is thought process about what are our goals, where are we going, are we achieving those goals, and how do we do those in the most fiscally responsible way. I will say this much: the city continues to. It's funny. I guess the best way to say it is it's always easy to be critical of how somebody runs their business. It's not always easy to be complimentary. And we receive a lot of criticism over how we choose to spend or how we choose to invest or how we make decisions up here in terms of working to improve our community. But I'll tell you that I invite any member of our community to join us at the Finance Committee meeting and actually talk about the actual numbers and dollars and cents of how we are taking our approaches on terms of our finance. Because in those meetings, we are not just talking about where can we spend the most, where can we do, but really how do we get the greatest value for taxpayer dollars. And you saw it today. You saw at least on 2 separate occasions tonight where we brought forth resolutions, not in an effort to spend more, but in order to be more efficient with taxpayer dollars. And that's the most you could ask for, right? We all have a finite amount of money. We all have our expenses, but in our finance meetings, I will just tell you and stress that there are great conversations about how we create the greatest value for our citizens with the resources that we have, and seeing the plans like Measure P. And, let's just give an example. One of the critiques that this council received earlier from a citizen was the idea of the $14 million bond, we just started at 14 million. We just said 14, yay, why not 18? 22, no. We started at 10, we started at 12, we started at 14. And we took each one, and you know what we did? We spent time analyzing it and understanding what we think our expenses are going to be and what we want to make sure that we can accomplish. And then we talked to the pool people. We said, okay, is this reasonable in this bucket or in that bucket? And where is our reasonability so that when we came forward before our citizens with a plan, that plan had been vetted and thought through in a way that was not only grading the best value, but also presenting the best possible results for our taxpayers based on what they've invested with us. It's that simple. And we do that every the first Tuesday of the month, and we would invite you to Finance Committee meeting to join us and hear about it. All the other wonderful things I can say. Is it the second Tuesday? Mm-hmm. First Tuesday is quality of life. Sorry, I got a lot of meetings on Tuesdays. The second one is that we get an update every time on how we're performing from our revenue and how we're performing. Is we're only, about 6 months into this fiscal year. We're still getting our numbers. But historically, the city has been on a growth pattern for the last 3 years, and we continue to see that. And what's really nice is we're seeing a recovery in our TOT income. We're seeing a recovery in our hotel stays. We're seeing steady gains in our sales tax revenue, that the 5.9 is a perfectly reasonable number to be used for budgetary purposes. And more importantly, is that we're finding that we're being economically savvy, and I'm looking forward to when we get the consolidated accounting report, the CARF, here in the next couple of months, once again being able to show the citizens how responsibly the city has been using its finances to get to the point that we're at today. Nobody wanted to ask the citizens for Measure P without having justification for the ask, and now putting it into use is so cool to see. So, we spend our time at the Finance Committee meetings getting ready for this meeting so that we can present you the best possible information. And that would be my summary of our Finance Committee meeting, is getting ready for planned presentations. And for you?
No, I think that's right. This meeting pretty much covered, tonight's meeting pretty much covered the recent finance meeting. But I just want to add too that, we also discussed the long-term financial solvency of the city too. And in regards to recessions, those of us that have lived here a long time and have seen whether it's a nationwide recession or a government recession, the effects that it has on the community. And so we look at that too, and that we don't, overspend and stay, fiscally conservative to weather out, future financial hurdles that may or may not come. But anyway, that's it.
Okay, any questions? No? Other committees, boards, or commissions? EKEA? Any other, I have not attended any others.
They appear to have been canceled before I was on board.
So that, all the other three were canceled for this month. Those are the standing committees. This would be other committees, boards, Kerncog, air pollution.
I went to the air pollution, and there's nothing to report.
Okay. And I believe East Kern Economic Alliance met, and I know Megan was able to attend that. I think RACVB met earlier this week as well, correct? Next week? Okay, great. City manager report.
Yes, just a couple
Do you mind, just real quickly, at some point in your report, could you mention something or ask about the status on Ward? I'd just love to hear that.
Sure.
Okay,
I
great.
can do that. Yeah. First, I'd like to thank Josh Mann and his staff for being here tonight. We'd anticipated a few more people coming to council, and so they were prepared to help us answer questions on the rollout of the organics program. As in all programs, we knew that the first couple months would be probably a little chaotic. We've had a robust public outreach program that unfortunately didn't reach everybody. So now we are, with Megan's help, we are going to phase 2, which is returning phone calls of the people that are calling and asking questions about what is going on. We are working with Waste Management to try and smooth out the bumps in the road. So it's just going to take a little while for this program to, sink into the community. This program is important. Obviously, we have to comply with the state regulations. We did the best we could to negotiate a contract with Waste Management that we felt that would fit our community. Now, anytime you change somebody's habits and how they throw their trash away, it's going to create significant, concern. I will say, though, that we do have some issues with CalRecycle that existed with our recycling. We had a low recycling number in town to begin with. So we're hoping that as we roll out the organics program, that we'll then start diverting some more of this recycling material that was not being diverted, that we have to divert, and we're hoping we're going to take care of this. This isn't something that we have an option to do, that we can opt out. It is something we have to do. So, Josh, do you want to add anything at all to my comments?
There we go. All right. I would just echo what the city manager said. Certainly from a standpoint of we are seeing some certainly activity on our side from a standpoint of community interaction. Some of the pluses are is that we had a fairly smooth rollout of containers. We commenced service with the new schedule starting last Monday. That would be January 9th. That we noted a number of folks wanting right off the bat to increase the size of their organics container. So that's also a plus in terms of driving diversion, as was mentioned by the city manager. So we are seeing some pluses there. I think the challenges is that some folks really struggled with whether or not they fully knew and understood or maybe somehow missed the information, the every other week trash schedule. In working with Megan, we worked out a schedule we thought would be as easy from a standpoint of remembering which week is which, right? As if you're rolling out your recycling cart, you're rolling out your trash cart, and you're always going to roll out your organics cart. That's going to get picked up every week. But it's only the weeks where you would roll out your recycling cart that we're going to be picking up the trash cart. And we've certainly getting the feedback for some folks that they're realizing, that's just not going to work. We thought maybe we could get by, and it's just not going to work. And in those cases, we're more than happy to assist with either extra bag pickup if it's really a one-time issue, or with arranging for a second trash cart to help those folks make it through the every other week schedule. On the whole, though, I mean, certainly Ashley and I were here with our body armor, thinking that maybe the concerns raised on Facebook were something that was going to show up here at the council meeting. And that's not to discount what people share on social media, other than it's kind of an amplification chamber. We certainly know where the challenges lie, and we are paying attention to the feedback, and we will be making those changes to, again, make sure that we're accommodating in the best way possible, as the city manager said, to meet the goals that we have to meet under Cal Recycle and deliver a service that we can all be proud of here in Ridgecrest.
Yeah, we do plan on having another town hall meeting here in the next couple of weeks that I would assume Councilmember Blades will be at, as long as Megan and the rest of the staff and Waste Management. So we'll be noticing that whenever that date's chosen. My second item, I'll invite Travis to come up and brief us on Ward Street.
All right, Ward Street. So Ward Street began the 11th. We were going to start the 9th. Rain kind of delayed us. We've stripped asphalt for the complete replacement that goes from roughly Mesquite to the Starbucks exit on Ward. And in digging up our first 2 manholes, we already found unknowns that we didn't know we had. So contingency is going to come into play there. There was a chimney lateral that was constructed on one of our manholes on the exterior that entered in the base where you couldn't see it. So the only way we would have known it was there is by digging through the tremendous amount of as-builts we have. We did our best with the as-builts, with the ones that we thought were the most viable, but there used to be a pump station there that dumped back into that manhole. And yes, sir. It's a little bit before my time. Had no idea to even look for it, and we found as-builts that had red lines all over them, so we thought this has got to be the one that's right, but so we had that issue. We found inlets into 2 other manholes that come from the trailer park that feed from the outside that we didn't know were there, that we are going to fix correctly and actually have the base set up and designed to accept the flow and not just force it into the stream and cause turbulence with off-gassing and things like that. So like I said, you never know what you're going to get until you put a bucket in the ground. We shut down the road from Wayne to China Lake Boulevard. To my knowledge, I've only had 1 complaint so far with the shutdown. Their flaggers have handled it quite well, but we did rectify the matter. It was a guy, his Meals on Wheels, that's the only way he can get his meals. Well, the flagging staff was told if they didn't live there, that we weren't going to let people in because we didn't want people to think that they could just come and go through there as they please. So we got that one rectified, and we're hoping to be out there for this phase for another week and a half, and then move down the road and have it closed from Wayne to Norma, and so on and so forth to Downs. And then once we get all the sewer work done, we'll start with the pavement rehab. So, and that's where we're at.
Very good, thank you. Last item I have is we are going to be having a city-sponsored event on Balsam Street on February 10th. We're working in conjunction with the Ridgecrest Visitors Bureau and the Chamber of Commerce. We're going to have an evening from, I think it's 5 to 9, where we're going to have 5 or 6 local food trucks with 4 wineries, 3 from Tehachapi and 1 from Paso Robles, Tobin James, that will be pouring wine, as well as the flight line being opened for beer. So we're going to have a band and a DJ. So we'll have basically music, alcohol, and food for about 4 hours, and we'll start working on our outreach on that to the public and let the community know we're going to have this event. This is something that that I feel that the city needs to start taking the lead in with our other partners. Like I said, we also have Aladdin from Casa Corona and a few other businesses that are also assisting in this group to be able to make this thing happen. So it is becoming a city and nonprofit organizations with some businesses that are coming together to put this event on. The ultimate goal would be is to have, the businesses on Balsam Street benefit from this in the sense of all we really are going to ask you to do is to maybe have your business open that evening so people can come and see what you do and maybe hopefully promote that and in some way stimulate the economy down on Balsam Street as well as fill some of those vacant buildings. That's all I have.
Can I add one thing, please? So I forgot to bring it up, but we had a member of the committee bring up a very good idea that's falls right in line. In a lot of other bigger cities, caterers will come in and do pop-ups in empty building spaces. They'll have events. They'll come in, they'll serve, and just use up maybe it's just for a couple of nights. So it's something to think about if you're out there listening. If you have a catering business, I know there's only a few in town, but others can be invited in to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, we're hoping that, we learn something from this and we get whatever, public engagement, depending on how many people actually attend this thing. We're looking at trying to do some regular tempo of this type event on Balsam Street to try and bring some activities downtown. So this is all part of the Measure P public event, public outreach aspect.
Fantastic, thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments for the city manager? Okay, we'll move on to future agenda items. Does anybody have any future agenda items? I know that we have the recommendation from the Economic Development Committee.
Yeah, which I assume will go to when we have to do budget adjustments. It'll be thrown in there, or if it's a certain amount, I don't know if the city manager could take action.
Yeah, we can bring that back on the 15th as part of our budget adjustment and include that.
That seems probably a little late for the conference on the 26th.
You can give later, that's fine.
It's just a funding.
Okay, I'm more so because then I know the chamber, my suspicion, and I'm not speaking for you, I'm asking, is the goal ultimately is that the city is in a prominent position alongside every other sponsor at that event, that the city of Ridgecrest is a key element sponsor to that. And I don't want to see them having to wait till, 10 days before their event to get those materials properly representing the city. That's my only concern about in terms of time.
I think, Mayor, we can have city listed as a sponsor, so that should not be a problem.
Okay, I'm just,
Yeah.
Yeah, I can, I mean, if
I
the,
simply was speaking about time, that was all.
I mean, if the council, if I'm going to get in trouble by doing this, I mean,
Don't
Keith's
do
gone.
there. I'm simply saying the first isn't
if
that
there,
far
if
away.
there's no, well, I'm asking you to make a decision, so I better not. The 3,500 is well within my spending authority.
Well, and that's what I was saying. We don't really have to make a decision.
Right,
up
you don't
here.
have to make-
It's well within your spending authority.
I can make the decision to move forward, and if I make the wrong decision, you can tell me I made the wrong decision.
Then we'll leave it in the designation of the city manager's hands to bring
you.
forward or to take action.
I guess I don't think we need to bring it back then for a
Right,
future
no,
agenda.
we'll let him make the, if he feels it needs to come back, he can say it does. If he doesn't, then he'll make the decision.
Sounds good.
Got it.
Any other future agenda items? Okay, mayor and council comments. I'm gonna let Mr. Blades be the first off tonight.
No comments.
Solomon?
I just want to congratulate Mr. Fred Itash for getting the Key to the City Award. And thank you very much for your service, especially to the youth of this community. So because of people like you, we are able to support our youth in various activities. Thank you so much. And thank you, ma'am, for being here, and thank you for staying back for the whole meeting. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Scott?
I'd like to carry on with what Councilman Rajaratnam said. The Etoshes, I've known them for many, many years, and kids grew up together, and so I can't think of a more, honorable, couple in business to receive this, and so anyway, we thank you dearly. I know in the background, you're always talked about and your commitment to the city, and always stepping up to the plate, and your support, and so it is greatly appreciated by everybody, and thank you again for everything you do.
This constitutes my first full city council meeting, and it's been cosmic. A blast. It's lasted since 4 o'clock, but the time went by like that, and I'm in awe of much of what I've experienced in this one meeting. Though for this final comment, I want to mention a little business in town that just opened, a modest little place called Mediterranean Flavors. I had occasion to stop by there, I think yesterday or the day before, on my way to the movies, where I saw Otto. But in Mediterranean Flavors, I was very impressed with the baklava. I think I mentioned it on Facebook. 1,000,000 years ago, I had an adventure in Ankara, Turkey, where I was given a last meal, or so I thought, that included a variety of Turkish baklava, which made me feel at the time I might as well stop. It doesn't get any better than this. And the lady at Mediterranean Flavors makes an array of baklava which was transcendent. I thought I'd mention that. Where is this? It's in a little shop next to a piece of art I made a long time ago called Hunting Magic that brings a lot of luck to whoever's there. There, I mentioned it. Baklava doesn't get any better.
Thank you, sir. So I have a few just final comments. First and foremost, I want to wish the entire citizenship of the city of Ridgecrest a happy new year and welcome them to 2023, the year of construction. You heard it about Ward Avenue. Hang on to your butts. We're just getting started. It's going to be one of those for this year and for next year, and I'm very proud to see what will come out of this for our community. I make notes throughout the meeting of things that I want to remind myself or things that I want to say. So I'm just going to throw out, one of our citizens loved to use the term Trashgate 2.0, and Josh, thank you for being here, and thank you for your staff being here. We were of the same opinion. I said, we'll be lucky if we actually get to city business before 7 p.m. tonight, and I'm very pleased that we were able to move forward, and that I think that there's some compliments and some information that needs to be conveyed in that. First, I want to thank all of our city staff. Megan, huge thanks to you. And I know Rick has been fielding calls. I'm sure Isabel's been fielding calls. I know Ron's been fielding calls. I'm sure everybody and their grandmother has gotten a phone call for trash and has answered it for our citizenships, and I thank you for that. You guys are buffering us. We've responded to some emails here and there. I've had a couple calls. I know Kyle's had calls. But you guys are the ones who I know are taking the slings and arrows for us, and we thank you immensely. But really, what is Trashgate 2.0? And this is the problem, is I think people don't boil things down to the most common sense understanding, or the most common denominator. Prior to SB 1383, you had a total of 6 pickups at your home on a monthly basis. You had 4 trash pickups and 2 recycling pickups on average. If you took an average month, not 52 weeks, just Josh, don't get into the details. Come on, I'm trying common sense here. Okay? You had 6. SB 1383 said you have to expand that from 6 to 10, essentially, because now we have to pick up another barrel every week times 4 weeks. So you went from 6 to 10. No, you would have went to 10. But it was our council that went to Cal Recycle and advocated for trying to get it from 10 to 8. And why did we do that? People say, well, why the hell did you get rid of a trash service? Because if you have 6 pickups a month and you go to 10 pickups a month, your price goes higher. If you go from 6 pickups a month to 8 pickups a month, your price is mitigated in some way. We did all of this to try and make it as best possible for our citizens as a whole. I understand there's some people that have individual circumstances that impact them, or they go, I don't want another bin. I got a family of 6 at home. I don't want a higher trash bill any more than you do, but I know that my family of 6 is gonna produce 2 45-gallon containers of trash every 2 weeks because I have 4 small kids, and trying to get them to understand to recycle is a challenge. But I'll tell you, in the last week and a half, I've gotten them to do more recycling than I had gotten them to do in the last 5 years. Because guess what happened? All of a sudden, there wasn't enough room in the trash can, and you had to use your noggin a little bit to make a difference and a different decision. And all of a sudden, my son takes his cardboard box, and instead of just throwing it in the trash can in its fully formed shape, takes out a knife, takes out his Boy Scout pocket knife, cuts the box down, folds it in half, and puts it in the recycling. Oh my God. Look at what happened. I understand. I don't want the bill any more than you do, but the truth of the matter is, you had a choice. You could have went from 6 pickups to 10 pickups, and your price would have been even higher. We negotiated it to get it to 8 to try and do our best for you as citizens. We feel we've done that. I think that if you honestly give yourself the patience of trying to adapt to the change, you'll find the change is much more functional than it is frightening. And with that, I have another little, nugget when we talk about TrashGate is, if you need more service, we'll provide more service. If you need less service, we'll provide less service. We want to try and make it as good as possible for you. But there's 2 words that I hope everyone hears. Implementation is 1 word in the dictionary. It's under IM, okay? And then enforcement is a whole nother word, and it's under the EN. Implementation is the phase we're in right now. Enforcement is the phase we will be in if we are unable to meet the expectations of Cal Recycle and our city is unable to meet the expectations that we need to meet for these programs. Let's get implementation right first as a community, and then let's talk about enforcement. Everybody wants to run to what are we going to do to hurt you? Step 1 is what can you do to help? And we would love your help. You might be amazed at what your kids can suddenly learn or do if you force them into making just a slight change. And even what you might be able to do, even as a senior citizen who doesn't want to change or doesn't believe anything is right in this world, you might discover something more that you can do. With that, I want to also take a moment and express our thanks and our congratulations to the new Speaker of the House, Congressman McCarthy. It has been our honor to have him as our congressional representative since 2008. Did I say that right? 8, 6, 8? 8. Yeah, I thought it was 8. Okay. I thought it was 14 years. I just didn't want to sound too stupid on the dais. And more importantly, this is why that redistricting that you guys all heard at the beginning of 21 was so, or at the beginning of 22 and the end of 21 was so important. This is critical, and congratulations, Congressman, and we look forward to what you're going to be able to do to help support the city of Ridgecrest in continuing to solve our critical issues, and we look forward to working with you in the future. If Finally, I want to do two remembrances. One, for those of you who didn't hear, Charles Griffin passed away. And those of you who didn't know Mr. Griffin dedicated his life through Salvation Army and to this community for many, many years. And he was another one of the pillars of giving to this community. And him and his wife gave much, much, much to this community. And I wanted to pass on my condolences to the Griffin family. You know, the loss of a parent's never easy, but the loss of a parent that was as generous as Charles was is only harder because the community loses at the same time. And with that, it brings me to my last one, which is on December 26th, while I was on vacation, I found out that a gentleman who hired me at the credit union now almost 20 years ago passed away suddenly in his home, and that was Mr. David Barrett. And for those of you who may have never met Dave or never knew Dave, Dave was a 20-plus year referee for this community. He was one of the guys out there refereeing basketball and football and volleyball and every other sport you could imagine for our high school youth, all the way up until his knees gave out to him, I think at the age of like 72, and he passed at 76. And I still remember he recruited me to referee football games my first year I was brought into this town, way back in 2005. And I said, that was great for 1 year, and I'm never doing it again. But Dave passed suddenly, and I just want to thank him. I get the opportunity from this dais to say my piece, and so I wanted to say, Dave, thank you for everything you gave to Ridgecrest. You were a citizen of Trona, and I know it was your home, but you always gave to every community you served, and you served the youth of this community as a referee for many years, and we thank you for that. And I personally thank you for taking the shot on the kid many, many years ago. With that, I will adjourn our meeting. I wish you all a wonderful evening, and I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks on the 1st of February. Everyone have a great evening.